So I would always fake an injury. I would always fake a sickness.
Gotta go see the nurses.
I need to go over
Shots.
there, right? That's the only way I could see girls.
All right. Welcome to Thick Boy Fight Club. I'm your Balkan boy.
I'm Tyson the Beast.
And our guest today is pro MMA fighter Tariq Ismail. Did I say that correctly?
Yep.
Oh, snap. But let's do our quick sponsor shout outs. Number one, always Top Mutt Studios, Kangen Water, Blessed
Bearded
Edibles,
Bites.
Bearded Bites,
Gas Tank. Major Pack.
Just for Kicks,
Kimura.
Mo Mind. Who
We
else
said
you got?
Top Mud Studio. Who else?
All right.
Major Pack.
Kangen
Water.
Toronto Top Team, 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, Dugout
Battle Arts.
Boxing.
Big shout out to Battle
Yeah.
Arts. Come see us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. New MMA program.
And let's get into it.
You guys are really rich, eh? You
Niagara
got
Top
Oh, yeah.
Team.
We
We
got
rolling in the
big-
sponsorships.
20
bro.
different sponsors
Niagara
over
Top
there.
Team. We
Holy
did a big
shit.
sponsorship for them. Go check those guys out this weekend.
Yeah, BTC this weekend on Saturday. Some big fights. We're sponsoring the show. But let's get into the restaurant shout outs. The food that me and Tariq just ate, Thai Bar Na. New spot open on Browns Line. It's like a Thai family owned restaurant, very
Etobicoke.
authentic. We had the Holy Basil, the
Immense.
Pad Khao Prao. It's fire, it's spicy. You said it tasted pretty authentic.
Listen, for
That was the
people,
medium.
For people that don't know the holy basil, it's a traditional Thai dish. They put rice with diced chicken or pork, depending on what you like, with a lot of herbs, and then they crack a fried egg on top.
Oof.
And so
egg.
it was absolutely authentic and delicious. Thank you so much.
Man, it was only medium. You guys said it was spicy. I
Nah, we
almost
go-
went spicy because you were always talking
we
crazy
going-
about
we
it.
going Thai spicy
let me
next
chill. So for me, another spot on Browns Line in Etobicoke as well.
You guys got the best food. I can't
It's
deny.
facts. It's not even a question at this point. It's a place called Crepe Delicious. Basically, what it is a whole bunch of different types of crepes. So like all kinds of
I
different
wanna go
fruit
there
crepes.
after
It's
this.
so fire. They have like dessert ones where they have like s'mores crepes. Like they have like chocolate chip crepes, blueberries. I mean, like it's you can either get really healthy with it or you can go straight fat boy with it. I do both. So Crepe Delicious on Brown Line, Etobicoke, best food in the city.
Tariq, what's your hidden gem?
Wow. I'm not going to tell you my hidden gem.
Come on, man. Big boy fight club, man. Exclusive guy.
Doesn't want all 40 of our followers.
Wow.
I'll tell you guys a place that I like. It's a Thai restaurant too. Obviously, you probably know of it. It's called Sabai Sabai.
Never heard of it. Tell me
Sabai
more.
Sabai. It's on Young and Bloor, so it's pretty authentic. The owners there also own Pai.
Oh
You guys
yeah,
probably
I've
know
been to
Pai as
Pai. I've
well.
given them a shout out. They're one of the
Yeah.
better Thai restaurants in Toronto.
So that's a really nice Thai restaurant. It's on Young and Bloor. Check them out.
Yeah, we know we love our Thai food.
The ends.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor to have Tariq on the show. I've had the pleasure of training with him a few times. He's currently signed with Brave, which is one of the biggest MMA promotions in the world. They do shows everywhere internationally, probably to as many countries as the UFC,
If not more.
if not
from what
more.
I've
Yeah,
seen.
and yeah, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's we got to cut the formalities and shit. You know what I mean?
Let's get to it.
This is my friend, my really good friend, and so is Tyson, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Well, why don't you just tell us how you got started in martial arts? Because we usually ask all the fighters how they found their
origin
way,
story.
the origin story. I know I ran into you in Ottawa, and you were just then starting dabbling in MMA, but you were, from what I could see, already well established in Muay Thai and boxing. So,
Yeah, it's an interesting story. I mean, it's probably deeper than what I'm gonna say, but I was, I got 3 older brothers. And so I think one of my second oldest brother was watching the UFC, like beginning UFC ones. I was a young boy, I guess, or a young teenager. And he was really excited. And I really liked watching shit with him. So I got excited too. And then after that, I was like, well, I really want to try this. It was as simple as that.
so you saw MMA from the get go.
From the TV. Yeah.
But you were doing boxing and Muay Thai first, right? Before you actually.
The first thing, yeah, I did boxing and Muay Thai. That really was the first gym I ever really started at. So the ideas came from UFC and from my older brother. That's really how I was introduced to the sport, how I saw it the first time. But for me, it came from I got accepted in university in Ottawa. I went to university there, and I was just trying to see what's around my neighborhood. New city. I was living in Toronto at the time, and just across from my condo was a gas station, and on top of it was a Thai boxing gym.
On top of the gas station.
And
Those are the best ones.
Those are the best ones.
On top of like a food spot, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's traditional for real.
And there's a nice tattoo shop downstairs. And I made my way upstairs, and there was a guy just getting ready to fight in New York for a show called Friday Night Fights.
I've heard of that.
So it's a Muay Thai show.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
And there was another guy getting ready for MMA. You guys remember MMA?
Yep.
In
Back in the
Montreal,
day, yeah.
Back for pro MMA.
They were like one of the first pro shows ever. Yeah.
Oh, so it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So this was 2008, I think. And so, I saw them and I was like, holy shit, I want to do what they're doing. They were just training and lifting bags and slamming shit. And I was like, this is a really cool workout. And so I signed up. For 6 months, I paid in advance because there was a special, right? You pay in advance. I had my OSAP money at the time.
Balling.
Right?
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months,
Like.
sign up, right? And so I signed up, and I came every day, twice a day. And then 6 months later, I asked to fight. Can you please? I see everybody fighting, everybody's getting ready, but they're all pros, right? And I'm just kind of like I want to fight too, At that time, well, beginners want to fight.
Yeah,
of course.
Beginners want to fight. Every beginner comes in 6 months, they want to fight, right? And so he saw I was hungry, so he's like, "Man, I don't have a fight for you locally, but if you want, you can fly out to Des Moines, Iowa, the States, and you can fight there. There's a tournament." And so I said, "Okay, no problem." I paid $1,500 out of my own pocket.
Is it that big? The big kickboxing one?
Matt went to.
Yeah,
a lot of people go
I got
to.
a lot of guys from Kansas City have been there. A lot of people go to that tournament. That's a big one.
It's a really good tournament.
Really big tournament, yeah.
Really
Rich Fam won it, I think, once a couple years ago.
Yeah. And so, I flew out there, and I flew with the same guy that was getting ready in New York, Sasha. And that was my first fight. I won my first one. I lost my second one. I came back, and that was really my introduction into fighting. And so ever since then, I just continued.
Was that like your first fight, or had you gotten into confrontations before then? Like, just
fuck, man. I got deported out of 3 countries. That's
breaking news here. I didn't even know that.
I had a lot.
Tell us more.
Yeah.
Sounds juicy. Let's hear it.
It's I was always like the problem, I guess. Not intentionally, man. It just I always landed in bad spots for some reason. I don't know why, And a lot of fights happened, and I was the youngest of 4 boys, right? So I always had protection. I had 3 older brothers, right? And so one of them was only 1 year older than me, so he's always in school with me, right? So I'm his younger brother. He always protects me. And so we would always get into fights together. It would just be a tag team versus like mobsters, because we lived all over the world, but really the heaviest fights for us was in like Abu Dhabi.
So what country did you live in the longest? Like, would you say you grew up in? Like, somebody
Canada.
asked.
I would say Canada. Yeah. I would say like 2/3 of my life in Canada, 1/3 outside. And so
you're Sudanese originally, right?
Yeah, originally my dad and mom are from Sudan and Egypt.
Okay.
But we lived all over because of my dad's job was all over the world. He traveled a lot, and so in Abu Dhabi, we're these Canadian citizens, and we're coming into these rich boy oil money shit, and we're in private schools, right? So everybody there is like,
driving a Benz
and shit, or whatever. And we're blessed, my dad's, got a good job. We can afford shit, puts us in good schools. But these guys are just like, they don't come from humble beginnings, right? So they're very much like, ready to poke at you for whatever reason. It could be, oh, you're from Sudan, ha, 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 ha. Oh, your mom's fat, ha, ha. It's like little kids, right?
Yeah.
Little kid shit, right?
Dumb shit,
13, 14, whatever. And so all the time we would fight. We'd fight in school. We'd fight outside school. We'd fight everywhere. There would be fights. And I was also a troublemaker. I mean, in general, I'm not happy with it, but being around that energy, you become, it's either kill or be killed. So it's all the time. It's like, oh yeah, you want to make fun of me? I'm going to make fun of you before you make fun of me. And then I'm going to beat you up.
Yeah, defense mechanism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I used to this was the funniest. My teacher would be on the board, chalkboard, writing whatever. And I'd be behind, just making fucking bird sounds. And this guy would turn around and he would scream, "Who's making those sounds? Who's doing that shit?" And then he'd turn around and he'd say, "If someone does it again, I'm going to kick your ass." And then he'd turn around and then I'd throw a piece of chalk at him. And no one would snitch on me, And it was just like that. And then we were in segregated schools. It was garbage. It was
Like literally segregated schools.
Segregated, man. I came from Canada. I, grew up here. And then I go there and segregated. And it's like, where are all the girls at? This is ridiculous, right? And so the nursery was in the ladies' side of the school. So I would always fake an injury. I would always fake a sickness.
Gotta go see the nursery.
I need to go over there, right? That's the only way I could see girls.
That's
That was
hilarious.
ridiculous, man. And so I got into a lot of fights. I got expelled out of 3 schools. My dad was so fucking pissed. He's like, "Man, I work so hard to afford this private shit for you, and this is what you're doing."
So it was 3 different schools, 3 different countries?
Three, same country, 3 different schools.
Oh, wow.
And so he goes, "You're just ridiculous, right?" And so at the time, I'm with all these rich kids, and they're coming to pick me up. They're 13, 14 years old. They're driving. They're driver's cars. Because, the driver takes them to school, whatever. I don't know if you guys know, but they got a lot of drivers and shit.
Yeah.
So their drivers take them to school. And most of the cars out there are like Toyota Land Cruisers, Nissan Patrols, a lot of 4x4 desert cars, but they're nice. Like Lexus,
Yeah,
Mercedes.
Land Rovers, Range Rovers, yeah.
Nice stuff. And so these kids would come pick me up in their cars late at night on a school night. And so I would make my bed like I'm sleeping, right? This 13,
Ferris
14.
Bueller swag.
Yeah.
And so my buddy would come
I've done that
outside,
before.
text me, come out. We'd go, and we go to shisha bars. Late at night, 2 a.m, we'd be driving to Dubai.
That's exactly what I imagined going to high school.
Dubai, like, we're going to shisha
my friend
bar.
picks up a G-Wagon, I sneak out and go smoke shisha. Like, that's exactly how I imagined.
It was crazy, man. The experience there was crazy. And
They love their shisha.
they would take me to shisha bars, but there'd be belly dancers there. And the belly dancers would come out and dance for us. And we're 13-year-old kids. And you could see we're 13-year-old kids. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? But whatever. So we didn't complain. And we drive, we chill. And so one day, I was like, "Bro, you don't need to come pick me up. I'm going to come pick you up this time." And
Oh, you tried to do the rich kid
I tried to
shit.
do the rich kid shit, So I take my mom's Mercedes.
Ooh.
And I go, boom, I go pick him up. I take him out, whatever and shit. And one time I came across the parking or whatever shit, and I kind of smashed it. I smashed it on this guy's car, and we were outside the movie
Kind of
theaters,
smashed it.
right? On this guy's
On
car.
his car. Oh, yeah. It was,
And the guy was outside the movie theaters, and he was just he was on the phone, and he's sitting, and I came out, and I'm like, oh my God. And he sees this 13-year-old kid, and he goes, "Just go, go, go." Just
Oh,
go. That
word.
was his car. And he goes, "Just go, go, go," right? So I get in the car with my friend, and we leave. And he goes, "Bro, don't worry. My uncle's a mechanic. He's got his own shop. We'll take care of it in the morning." And I'm panicking. And I'm just like, shit, how am I going to get home with this shit? It's huge. And so I get home around 6 a.m, I remember. And it's a school day. My mom's waiting out there
with the
in the
belt.
garage, right? And so I park the car. I come inside. And literally, the belt, whatever shit.
Just
You know what I
waiting.
mean? Just waiting for
Hanging
you.
over his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And so I take my whippings, whatever, and she tells my dad, and my dad goes, "You know what? This kid does not deserve to live in Abu Dhabi. He does not I'm going to take his ass to Sudan. Take him to Africa." And so I go to Sudan for 2 years. I had to be on my best behavior. and until I made it back to Toronto. And that's when I came back. And so it was an interesting upbringing. I traveled. I lived all over the world. But Toronto's by far my home.
Toronto was home.
Yeah.
You know?
So when was your first MMA fight? Like, how long had you been doing Muay Thai and boxing before you actually got into MMA, would you say?
I got into MMA fairly quickly. I used to talk a lot of shit when I was younger as an amateur. And a lot of wrestlers would say, you know, bro, come to MMA. You talk too much shit, you know? And
Because you had a lot of boxing fights and Muay Thai fights,
I had a lot
right?
of Muay Thai, but no, not really. Even just like, you know, I trained and I liked to fight for some reason. I loved it when I was really young. And when you're young, you just you're filled with all this hope and shit. You know, you got a different kind of energy.
Yeah, it's a little delusional almost,
delusional.
but
You
in
gotta
a
be.
good way. You have to be. You
If you're
know,
gonna make it in that sport, like at the
I
highest
just
level,
think
you have
about
to
how far I got, like just with that delusion. I think like, fuck, I wouldn't even made it half this way if I wasn't delusional like that.
You have to be.
And then you're way more of a savage than you ever thought possible. You know,
I agree 100%.
Nothing great comes from being logical.
it's true.
Like,
You have to be a little crazy
nothing
to
great
do
comes
this
from being
thing. I mean,
logical.
I was a scrawny little refugee Bosnian kid, you know, and like, look how far fighting's got me. So I could, you know, I feel those same similarities in you. I mean, that's why I'm drawn to other fighters like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me at that time, I didn't know. I just was like, I really like this. I'm good at it. I was good at it in the gym because I still hadn't fought a lot. You know, I fought a couple fights in the States, and then I came back, and then I was like, man, it's really dry out here for like the fighting scene.
It is.
Yeah.
It's super dry.
My first fight was in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
like-
but that was some
Like,
bullshit.
but
you
you
didn't
can't
have to go all the way
know?
to
I mean,
Afghanistan.
And it wasn't until
Like
yeah, my first fight was in Ohio, really, but my first pro fight was in Afghanistan.
But see, Ohio, even you had to go to the States.
You have to go to the States, yeah.
It wasn't,
And it was so
as-
developed. I had literally an amateur ID card with my like photo ID on it in Ohio.
Bro,
And
it's
it was
such
like,
a huge-
It was
the
like
bi-
it was like,
the bi-
and there was a national database, and I was like,
Bro, arguably
so
the
much
best
more
circuit
organized.
in the world is the Midwest regional circuit. If you're being honest, like all your favorite fighters a lot of times aren't from California or Florida. A lot of them are from the Midwest. If you look at that circuit, like
Yeah, they just find the better
Michael
training eventually
Chandler,
in
Ben
Florida and
Askren,
California. but-
DC, like
You're
if
right.
you look at that circuit, and then for wrestling, just as a wrestling base, it's the best circuit, right? So if you really look at what where the best fighters in the world come from, it's arguably the Midwest United States. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, look at all
But you're
the-
right. Canada was a dry scene until TKO came back. There wasn't even any fights yet.
Don't even get me started on TKO.
Well, didn't you have your first pro fight there, right?
Where did I have my? No, I had my first pro fight at Instinct. I want to say.
That was also Stefan Petrie.
No, he was the matchmaker or whatever for that show, but he didn't own it.
Okay. I remember because I was supposed to fight for Instinct too.
This is
I just
Montreal as
never, I just never like Patrice. He's the famous like MMA promoter from Quebec. He was George
fuck
St.
Patrice.
Pierre's
Hey, if
favorite.
you're following
He was
this
George
channel
St.
right now,
Yeah, he was
fuck
George St.
Patrice,
Pierre's
you know?
manager. He's one of the most difficult people I've ever had to deal
Hey,
with.
one more time for Stephanie Petrie. I used to call him Stephanie Petrie. Man,
Stephanie Petrie.
He would man.
I've never met the guy, but I've heard so many stories.
Yeah.
You know what? We're not even gonna give him any airtime right now. Next question.
Next question. Yeah. So when you were done with that show, you had like what, maybe 4 fights with that show, right?
No, I fought Instinct. He had nothing to do with Instinct, and then I fought Hybrid.
I remember Hybrid. They were an
yeah.
amateur show initially.
They were amateur show originally, and then they switched into pro. They had about 3 or 4 or 5 maybe pro shows, and then they were like, "Man, this is so expensive out of our own pocket." And
That's
they
what
were
a lot
like,
of pro MMA shows realize.
And they were doing it in like Gatineau because Quebec was, I think, like 5 times cheaper than Ontario. Like nobody was doing shows
Bro,
in Ontario.
this is why when people complain about the UFC, I always say, guys, a lot of people tried to do what the UFC do and cut their losses short. The UFC saved their original people who, was some Gracies. Like, people forget, if Dana and them didn't put the loss, I mean, he said they lost as high as up to $100 million before ever seeing it. Most people don't wait $100 million in before giving up. Like, imagine if Dana would have given up.
I think
Where
as
would
fans and as young fighters, we've all seen like those shows that come out of nowhere with a lot of money.
Affliction.
Like a lot of money, and then they just burn out real
Bodog.
quick. But that's why Brave, I think, is impressive because they have the backing of the Prince of Bahrain. Like,
Now
they're not
that's-
going to run
now-
out of money.
Now that's a guy to give a shout out to. Shout out to Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, who really puts us on the map. So shout out to Brave Combat Federation. That's a guy I'd give a shout out to because you know what? I'll be honest with you, not just because he's like my people, but honestly, because he pays the fighters. I've been on all the shows, you know,
How many shows you fought?
UFC.
3, 4? For him?
For them 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, but I just renewed my contract with them for another 3 years, so I'm so happy to be with them. But I'm just saying they pay us the best out of any show I've ever been on by far. Like it's leaps.
From what
between
I've
other
heard,
shows.
there's no way they're making money. This guy must just love the sport. It sounds
He
like he's a
must.
guy who
He
just.
must.
There's
And
no
on
way
top
from
of
the
that-
contracts I've heard that they're making money. When I heard what you've
and on
like,
top of that, check this out. With COVID, they had stadiums that were still rented out for us to make the show look like it's what it's worth, the platform, right? Like a nice arena. But there was no audience.
that's such an L to take. That's a love for
That's
the
a
sport.
huge L to
That's
take.
just a
Huge
love for
L.
the sport. Yeah.
And we
I
talk,
love
you
for the
fought for
sport.
them during the pandemic in Sweden, correct?
I fought for them in Sweden during the pandemic, and
South Africa and like you
Kind
were
of like
saying.
the Bellator thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, you have to have a love for the sport to do what he was talking about, where you're renting out arenas just so the fighters feel a certain way. I've seen some of the contracts they give out. I know they're not making that type of money back. So, you know, what I mean, now we have a bunch of people who love the sport and are willing to do that. But you gotta remember, man, without Dana, it's a whole different.
so sorry, guys.
No worries, no worries.
Sorry, he had a colon.
No, bro, that's important. Your family's in the hospital, bro. We're not-
Yeah.
She'll add a commercial. I have to go back into what you said.
All right. So Brave's been doing shows all over the world. They've been partnering with like small shows and putting on local fighters. Right now, they're more in the European scene. And like you were saying, like they're doing it for the love of the sport.
Yeah,
Because
you gotta love-
they can't be making money at on some of these shows. There's no way.
Yeah, because you said your first fight was what, $500, right? So
Yeah,
you
listen,
get a contract like this, and you know they're not at the level the UFC is, which is giving the same type of contracts. You got to give respect
it's
for
not
whoever's
even
doing that.
You know, I'll be honest with you. Like, you know, I have a fantastic management company, and you know, we speak about even what a title shot looks like, the money for the title shot versus where I'm at right now, and Brave just pays better than any company I've ever been with, but also in terms of the platform that you're launching your brand on. It's second to none. I think the only other show that was equivalent to it, in my opinion, was TKO. It was really beautifully put, TKO, even though I don't like to give him any credit. I mean, he really did put on a great show.
I mean, he's the reason Cyril Gane is in the UFC. Cyril Gane was the TKO
Didn't Dustin
Canadian
Poirier
heavyweight champion.
Wasn't that the fight? He came up here and fought on that show, right? I remember seeing that.
TKO was around forever back in the day.
Tons of guys have
but
fought on that show.
the revamped one that had the UFC Fight Pass and had a pretty big.
He had a good platform.
He had a good platform,
And as a fighter, you want that because that gives you the opportunity to be discovered. Why did Hamzat get discovered? Because he was on Brave. Obviously, he would have been discovered anywhere, right? But Brave helped discover him. And
They
so
did, yeah.
that's the thing with these platforms is if you see right now as a fighter, any fighter really with like 10 plus years of experience, if you haven't made it yet, at any point you can make it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any
You're one
point,
call away.
You're just waiting for that one call. You're just waiting for that one right opportunity where you just have an incredible performance and people are like, wow, Bojan's the next big thing. Tyson's the next big thing. Tariq's the next big thing.
You're right. At
You
this
know?
stage, you
this
definitely because you
stage-
feel like you could fight almost anybody. At
And the
that
UFC
stage,
is
like,
giving out
at
contracts more than
my
ever.
weight class, like you just feel like you could fight almost anybody. Why wouldn't you take?
Why not? Every day at the gym you fight.
Exactly.
Every day at the gym you train, man. Really, you know, one person asked me, man, you've been on the shelf for about a year and some change. You know, I said, yeah, and so? He goes, you know, you don't feel like you're going to get any rest? I go, listen, man, I put in the work every single day. Every day I go to work. Every day I clock in and I clock out. So having one night to perform in is not the end of the world. It's not the biggest thing for me because I put in the work every single day.
Well, this goes into
Yeah.
the conversation we were just having. Yair Rodriguez just fought a former world champion who some people think is still a world champion. He had a 2-year layoff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we went to that conversation. So it's like, why would a fighter who has never made that type of money?
Because you have to
not
look at
want
it as
to?
like it's a huge
You know what I mean?
opportunity and it's a privilege, really. Especially in like with COVID and everything going on. It's really a blessing and a privilege to get to compete.
It's definitely a blessing, but it's also a blessing for people to watch me compete. Not just me as in me, I'm talking Vu. Any fighter that's put in their work. It's a pleasure to watch that. You should be honored that you get a chance to watch us fight and entertain you, because we have sacrificed so much. We have perfected this art to a point that when you see us, you say, man, you make it look easy. I do make it look easy, but you can't do that.
You fight it because you fight at 135, correct?
I fight 135.
What I think is the best weight class in the world. I think the UFC recently, Dustin Poirier said when he was asked about the best boxing, he said it's not Max Holloway. He said he thinks Peter Yan is the best boxing in MMA. And coming from a guy like Dustin Poirier who could have just said himself, that tells you what he thinks of the division when he's giving shout outs like that to, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's a good shout out, but man, you can make the argument like, fuck, look at Tyson Fury, heavyweight, but he's got hands like a featherweight.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Well, not in the world. He was saying in MMA, like
in
UFC.
MMA,
If Tyson Fury comes to the UFC,
yeah,
he's obviously like, you know what's funny? DC made it, and he was slick. So who do you think is the best boxer ever in UFC history to ever compete?
To ever compete, I'd have to rewatch footage or kind of give a really to give a really fair answer. But I think just off the top of my head right now, I say like somewhere around Max Holloway, Peter Yan, you know, like those guys.
Anderson Silva.
Who would you say? Okay, so DC caught everybody. James Toney.
Oh yeah, okay. But,
and I was like, damn, that's a good. He's like, I don't care what happened.
Yeah, but how
he was the best boxer.
What's the best boxer in MMA has to show how effective can you make your boxing.
Yeah, and I would put
MMA.
the Diaz brothers in there too.
Well, this is why I always say why MMA is the future of all martial arts, because your boxing and kickboxing only is relevant as your ability to stay on your feet. Kron Gracie, who we haven't seen fight since, your jiu-jitsu is only as relevant as your ability to get the guy to the ground.
And I'm talking to a guy who really, I think in my personal opinion, you've really have perfected like fighting stand-up for MMA. You know what I mean? Like you're one of the better strikers I've ever sparred with. And, you know, and like, and I know you've put a lot of time.
You don't load things up.
That.
You're not an easy guy to just take down because you're swinging for the fences.
You choose the right weapons at the right time. And I think you're a big guy that told me that is to choose the right weapons at the right time.
Well, big shout out to Toronto Top Team and Enzi, a good striker, a smart guy who wants to come to MMA. You go to a place where you can find good wrestling instead of just going to another place where you're comfortable, right? So big shout out to Toronto Top Team and those guys for
big shout out
developing
to
a beast.
Ainsley Robinson from
Toronto.
You guys had Ainsley Robinson
just recently. Yeah. He gave him the Kamzat beer. Man.
He improved my wrestling.
His wrestling got better. Isn't that how you're wrestling? Yeah. So before we wrap up, go ahead and give go and promo everything you're doing. Where can people find you? Where are you teaching at? If you want to talk about the news you might be getting, this is your chance to just kind of promote yourself and what you're doing and where people can find you.
Yeah, no. First of all, I really want to take the time to shout out Thicc Boy Fight Club. You know, they're really doing big things, and they're really a fantastic group of people. So you should definitely follow them. Another thing for a shout out, I would say shout out to my team, Toronto Top Team. I also want to give a shout out to all my coaches that have helped me throughout the time. You know who you are. And listen, where you can find me, I teach sometimes. For now, I teach. Tomorrow I might say, fuck it, I'm going to rush at a train. So take advantage of it. I'm at Toronto Top Team Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I teach little kids too on Saturday. So if you got any young ones, little kids, bring them my way. Other than that, I fight for Brave Combat Federation. I just got some good news, so maybe I'll share with you guys sometime soon. But stay tuned, and I'll share with Thicc Boy Fight Club before I share with you guys.
Yeah, we'll break it for you.
And
for sure.
Your Instagram handle and
Instagram, all that, so that way they can follow you.
Yeah, listen.
Get your followers up.
Instagram, I'm not. You can catch me at Desert Storm. So Desert Storm, everything really Desert Storm. Handle. That's my fight name. So anything Desert Storm, you can find me on any social platform.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Guys, definitely check out Tariq. Like I said, we've both trained with him. We think he's definitely a guy who is one call away from the UFC. Happy to hear what he's getting with Brave, though. Like, seems to be working out. You're in one of the toughest divisions, but he's definitely one of those guys who you wouldn't be surprised if you see him in a few months knocking guys out in the UFC. So definitely check this guy out. If you're in the East End, go to Toronto Top Team, not just for him, but what they got Enzi and what they're building over there. Thanks again for coming. I'm Tyson the Beast.
I'm the Balkan Boy.
It's our boy Tariq, Big Boy Fight Club.